they recognize and they value. Yeah.
Okay. 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 As I said, mentorship of volunteers, it's something that we wanted for a long time. It has some sort of funding in NGOs, but sadly, up until now, no real understanding that it needs to be funded in public institutions, in care homes and hospitals and so on. So my question is for the ministry, obviously, the ministry that for the first time in our lives did find some funds to pay mentoring coordinators. So perhaps you could tell the people what this action was, how it was funded, and also are there any plans to continue this or to institute more systemic support for mentorship in volunteer home, in care homes?
Yes, thank you. I think I need to give you a little bit of a wider context, how this happened, why this happened. Well, this government, one of the major project of this government was the reform of long-term care in Slovenia. This was one of the top priorities of this government, and even so that it got its own ministry for reforming the long-term care. So what we did, what really changed the system was we established state insurance fund for financing certain long-term care facilities. So, for example, from December last year, care homes or nursing homes like this one in Slovenia from December 2025 are founded at 41 million euros per month. This is the money that wasn't there before. It was the money that was paid mostly from out of the pocket. And this state fund is more than 700 million euros per year. This is really kind of a revolution in a long-term care in Slovenia. And of course, besides this revolution in funding of long-term care, the other part of the reform is to renovate, to see the whole set of services, of long-term care services in Slovenia, and to see what they need, how they should be modernized, how they should be, let's say, deinstitutionalized, so to have more care at person's home, to renovate the nursing homes and so on. And one of the obstacles that we are facing actually all the time is lack of the labor force, lack of the workers, the care workers. It's not only Slovenian. It's not only in Slovenia. It's all over Europe, but it's really the urgent situation. So one of the elements of our reform, besides the laws that directly addressed long-term care and insurance fund and financing and new taxations, we also established new special taxation which is especially meant to finance the fund, the insurance fund. And besides that, we also passed some auxiliary legislation, and one of them was directed to what should we do, what can we do, what can state do, what can the actors do to to mediate this hard situation with the working force, with laborers. So this was one special legislation. It was kind of innovative legislation because it was designed as a kind of bundle of policies, eight specific policies directed to labor market, to conditions in a care homes, and so on and so on. So it was passed in 2024, and it's designed kind of to be tested to see which kind of policies work, and then after 3 years, next year we will see which policies work, and we will pass them into a more like systemic legislation. So one of these policies, it was the policy to support the coordinators that work with the volunteers, and it worked. It's now, they are now employed, I think, in 5 or 6 five nursing homes. We are also reviewing the results. We ordered the research project, and of course we are talking and discussing this with our colleagues in nursing homes. So yes, the answer is I think it's very useful policy. I think also that it needs to be developed further, and I think it needs to be passed into this kind of systemic legislation. There's one more thing. It's actually the first, and I think at the moment the only case that legislation that deals with the volunteers was passed in Slovenia on a specific government ministry. We have a kind of legislation that deals with the volunteers in generally, but our ministry was the first case that we passed the legislation for volunteers in the field of work of our ministry. So this is also maybe some other ministries will also go into this direction. So yes, the answer is it is successful. I think it's successful policy with this reservation that it's still in a kind of testing phase. 5 homes are not enough for really a comprehensive policy. But next year, when we review these policies, there is a strong intention to pass them into a systemic law. I think this will be the step forward that you are talking about.
Okay, thank you. This leads us to my next question, that volunteer mentors are not just some people, not everybody can be a volunteer mentor. So it's a specific profession that requires specific skills and competencies. And I would like to start with you, Barbara, again, because you were a volunteer mentor for a really long time, and then you will all get a chance to talk. Don't worry. Can you tell us what kind of skills do you need to become a volunteer mentor, and perhaps what did you learn while mentoring volunteers? How did it help your career development or personal development, or what did you gain from it?
I'm a lucky person because I come from non-governmental organizations, and I've been a mentor for volunteers for 26 years, a little more, and also a volunteer. So I strongly believe in volunteers and also in mentorship. And it's quite funny because my first personal experience was really bad because I didn't have a good mentor and everything possibly went wrong. I was a younger boy And at the end of volunteering, he wanted to marry me. And I really didn't have anybody, to talk to, and the mentor was absent and everything. And maybe that was the thing that really pushed me forward. I think the first thing for a mentor is that it has to be responsive. So I always gave my personal GSM number to all the volunteers, and I told them when they can call me. And almost nobody called me afterwards, because I tell them to call me when they really need me, and when the call came, they really needed me. So it's really important to dedicate a lot of energy and work to meet the volunteer, then to know why he or she came for volunteering, and of course to give them proper education, if I may say so. It's different in our residential homes, because mentors are usually somebody who is employed as a social worker or a professional in other field. It's always additional workload, the mentorship. So we have to find people who like to work with volunteers, who are also interested in educating on these matters, and it is also very, very responsible work. And I think it's absolutely necessary if we want to help residential homes, that mentors become a profession, paid profession, and that they can work maybe at the beginning half-time, but at the end full-time, if we want to become like Ireland one day. We will need more than one mentor, but let's start with one at the beginning. So a mentor of volunteers is usually a kind, very emotionally mature person who can see a resident and his needs, and also volunteers. And my I don't know, what I learned is that because I worked very well with volunteers, is the skills from this field I can usually transfer to working with other people. So they say in Slovenia that you have to act with the employees like they're the volunteers, and not a lot of people know how to do this. So I guess this is the answer.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. Would any of you, volunteer mentors, coordinators, managers, whatever you call yourself, like to add something? What did you learn, or what skills you needed to start working as volunteer mentors? Susanna, perhaps?
Well, good morning, everyone. I didn't learn any Slovenian words, so I failed the test yesterday. I tried to learn anything in Slovenian. Well, in answer to your question, I will be much aligned with what was said here. And it's very, I think the mentor, well, it's people after all. We have to manage people. This is the one thing. My experience is to manage the managers of the mentors, manage the mentors of volunteering, among other stuff, because in Portugal we don't have this figure paid in exclusive. So we have to do it half time with other different things. But the thing is, and the most important thing is, we have to realize that we have people that are coming to us, and they have some expectations regarding to what we are doing in the facility, and we have to have it organized. So one of the tasks for the mentor or volunteering is to know for sure how many volunteers they need for what specific roles they are going, or papers they are going to develop with the patients or with the clients or whatever. So this is it's really very basic when we see volunteer management in the plan. We just have to look for, I think, 4 main things. The first one is to really have a good needs survey around the center so that we have clear what we need volunteers for. And then we have to recruit them and try to be appealing to people which are potential volunteers to come to us, and be very good in marketing so that we can announce, well, this is very good to be volunteering. You are going to help in this idea and this job or in this matter, and then train them well and try to have their expectations really fit with the needs that we have. And then all the time evaluate. So I keep evaluating everything and every time. This is part of my job. I do it nationally in our institution in Portugal. So my experience with volunteers, mostly the training part and all of that stuff, trying to have my mentors all aligned with the specific needs that they have there. So this should be more or less the tasks that we have to make sure that happen in an institution so that we can have good volunteers. Although we have the model, we don't have 120 volunteers in one center. We have it more or less a little bit more, but around the country in our institution, so it should be 8 centers. But we have really good projects with volunteering and at home, at the people's home. So that's another challenge, to have the clients or the people that we care in their own homes and have volunteer people going there. So this is a very good way of trying to help families and try to add value in the care that they provide at home. Another thing that I think it's important, we are talking about volunteering, and we don't talk about, well, we're talking about the importance of the mentor and try to have this role paid and with exclusive time doing this job. But I think it's really good, and I spent, I think, for around 10 years, more or less, trying to demonstrate to our managers that volunteering was important, and I choose to do it by numbers and saying, when you have volunteers in the facilities, you are giving back to the institution a certain amount of euros. So I don't know, 100,000 euros if you make the count right. I had experience last month with 4 days of volunteering, and I make the study just to that event, and we give back to the community 12,000 euros. So it's a lot. This is a give back in an economical way. We don't give the money, but we give the hours, we give our expertise as volunteers. And so as volunteers, we are giving back some economic value, and we give that back to the community or the center or the country, if you want to spread it in a national wide. So this is really, I find very important to just bring that to the table, that thing to the table, because to convince managers, you should be easy to convince because you had an experience with volunteering. But the managers that work with me, they come from healthcare or management roles, so they care about numbers. How many do I have to provide care? And they care about numbers. And then I give them numbers in euro. This is how much euro we give back in volunteering. So this is a good way to start and to give the managers of the centers a really good idea about the volunteer. At least it works in Portuguese, it works like that. If I can go also for the human side, but I don't think they will be so sensitive to that. And that was my option. And that works. So they started to value also the volunteering, and they started to have people with a little bit more time to manage the volunteering. So this was a really hard work to do. It doesn't seem when we talk about it in an easy way, but it was really difficult to try to see them that economy feature going up and growing. I don't know if I skipped the question, but
No,
you are the mentor, so you have that responsibility.
Okay. Thank you, Susanna. Now I forgot my question. You confused me. I wanted to say, you have, Nicola, 120 volunteers. They are most certainly not all doing the same thing every day, all day.
Yep.
So my question is, does the work of the mentor also depend on what the volunteers do? How much does it? And perhaps you could tell us a bit about what those volunteers do at your home.
Yeah, I suppose I would agree with everything that Susanna and Barbara have said. So I suppose there's kind of three parts maybe to where volunteers fit into our homes. So there's the residential side. So there's 60 people living in St. Joseph's. So volunteers that would come in to do that would be supporting our activities team. So it could be anything from dancing, chair yoga, fit for life exercise. We have, I think you also have the bikes here, right? Yes, we have two of the trishaws or trio bikes. So we volunteer pilots. So we're able to go across to the local park. It's a really great way for us just to connect with our local community, because unfortunately there still is a stigma about living with dementia. There's also still a stigma around living in a nursing home, and we're trying to just reach out to our local community. There's buddy volunteers, so they would come in and buddy up with a particular resident. So I guess I'm being told to slow down, sorry. Apologies, tell me if I'm going too fast. I just get so excited and so sorry, apologies. Where was I? But yeah, so I think as the volunteer coordinator, manager, mentor, whatever that role is called, you have a very unique position, because you know all the volunteers. You also need to know all the staff. You also need to know all the residents, because you need to know what are their needs. So we have a gentleman who lives with us, and he loves to do DIY. That was his job. So we try to find volunteers that can come in and they can work together on a DIY project. There could be painting, sanding. I mean, we got new chairs, and he took apart all the old chairs, and he was in his element. He loved it. It was his sense of purpose that we were tapping into, and we were able to do that because we had a volunteer buddy that could come in. So I mentioned we also have our day centre. So that's for people living with dementia in the community, and they come in and spend the day with us. And we have a team of about 20 now volunteers that support that service. And again, there's 24 people generally coming into the day centre. And it means we can do lots of activities supported by the volunteers. So a lot of quizzes, there's a choir that we do, there's indoor tennis. We also go to our local tennis club as well. So we have outdoor tennis, but it's, well, indoor. We do balloon tennis when we play it in our home. But when we go to the tennis club, we use the tennis balls because we have a bigger space and we've got the tennis court. And we actually discovered tennis players that we didn't know were living in our home. And the reality is they are playing the staff and the volunteers off the court. They're that good. So just they had the racket in their hand and muscle memory kicked in, and they really got into it. We also then try and reach out to our community. So we have some volunteers that will go to the local secondary schools, and they will give a talk about dementia and about the work that we do in St. Joseph's. So we try and reach to the age group around 15, 16-year-olds. And just to, because at that stage, maybe they have a grandparent or maybe even a parent who's living with dementia, and we can just raise awareness at that younger age. We also run a primary school art competition. So again, trying to reach a younger group again. And we also have a local creche that comes in from nearby. So we're trying to get all the different generations together. I mentioned our community cafe. So that's run by volunteer baristas. We've learned how to make proper coffee. It has been a challenge, but really worthwhile. And one of the volunteers is living with dementia. So she is part of our team, and it gives her that sense of purpose, which is really, really important. And I suppose my colleague said to me, what we do, there's no real legislation. I know there's legislation here in Slovenia and also in Portugal around volunteering. There isn't so much in Ireland. And you know, so we always talk about what we do as human resources on speed, because you don't know what's coming at you. You also have to manage the same things that somebody in HR would deal with. So there's conflict, people not getting on, people, you know, maybe finding things difficult. And about getting that person role, it's really important. You need to know what's the motivation for the volunteer, like why do they want to volunteer? And I suppose we're trying to reach out to bring in younger age groups as well, because a lot of people think, oh, it's only people who are retired have time. But that's not true, because my parents would say, I'm very busy, they're both retired. But we try and reach out to facilitate Erasmus placements. So at the moment we have 2 students, one from Norway and one from France, and they just add so much to our home as well. And we also reach out to students from America, and they come over in the summertime. So last year we had 5, and they just kind of replace, I suppose, when volunteers go on holidays, and usually the summer months are when they would go on holidays. And then we have another group then that will come in, so from America. And it's really good to bring the world to our home, and it allows our residents to maybe travel the world from the comfort of their home. And we have virtual reality, I should mention that as well, talking about traveling, a virtual reality system that volunteers come in to facilitate. And there's one gentleman who's from a place in Ireland called Donegal, and one of the volunteers was able to bring him to his hometown using the virtual reality system. And he said, oh, there's the pub, and that's the other pub, and there's the shop there. And my dad's shop used to be here, and this is where our family home is. And the family said afterwards, like, there's no way we would get him there now. But he was able to go through, thanks to volunteering and thanks to the power of technology when it works.
Thank you, Nicola. I've been a volunteer mentor, but what you do sounds like running a multinational corporation. So we'll circle back to our decision makers and start with Tereza. I'm sorry, I haven't given you any chance to speak yet. I know you've been in the NGO sector for a long time prior to your current function. So you know that we wanted to institute volunteer mentors as a profession for ages. So if I understood correctly, there is a plan to start with this. Could you please perhaps give us your outlook on what needs to be done to make sure that volunteering in long-term care or in other sectors is sustainable, that volunteer mentors become early part of the collective of the workforce, let's say, because this is one of the conditions that volunteers as well are part of the collective. And it works best when volunteers are included in the collective of the employees, not some outsiders who come in.
Okay, I will try. Thank you.
I'm sure you know a lot
about it. Yeah, as Katarina says, I'm now a member of a National Assembly, but before that, before politics, I led Slovene philanthropy for more than 20 years. So you can imagine I'm a great supporter of volunteering. But not just me, I can say. In my political party, Freedom Movement, which is also the leading party now in the government, we also actively support volunteering. And we believe that smart government should support and nurture
volunteering, because it is somehow, volunteering is somehow a glue, I would say, of the society, and a network that mitigates the problems that can befall us as individuals or a society. And in Slovenia, as we all know, people have proven time and time again that we know how to stand together as volunteers, especially when it is absolutely necessary, perhaps at some kind of catastrophes. And during last major floods in Slovenia in August 2023, it was the quality coordination and mentoring of volunteers that was key to the really large and fast help that thousands of volunteers provided in flooded areas immediately after the catastrophe. And I know that Slovene philanthropy, for example, played a very important role in this. And so I really believe that mentoring and coordination is of utmost importance when it comes to organized volunteering, such as volunteering in public institutions or, for example, hospitals, home for elderly and elsewhere. And during this mandate, it was 46 million euros allocated for infrastructure and for non-governmental organization and volunteering organization. And this is only one ministry, the Ministry for Public Affairs Administration, which is the parent ministry for non-governmental organization and also volunteering organizations. And then of course funds for individual volunteer programs are also allocated by the line ministers, such as Ministry for Solidarity Future. And I think we have to, as far as I understand, also the State Secretary, Luka Omladič, if it turns out that this project will be successful enough, the cause will be repeated or perhaps even extended. I hope. In 2022, government allocate more than 2 million euros, which is quite a lot of money for Slovenia, for mentoring alone. And in 2024, it was more than 4 million euros, a bit less in 2025. I don't know why, but I hope we will allocate more money for mentoring because it's really, really necessary. And we also adapted the strategy for the development of volunteering, which is also very important, and we will do our best. I hope to ensure that the strategy is implemented as well. So, as a member of parliament for now, I cannot emphasize enough how important this quality mentoring is, especially for the successful integration of volunteers inside of the perhaps public institutions or elsewhere, and also for good volunteering experience, which is also very necessary. This is why we will continue to support mentoring financially, perhaps even more than for now, I hope. If, of course, we will have the opportunity, because we are at the end now and the elections are really, very close. So this could be my contribution, because it's good base for politicians to have some background in volunteering organizations and as volunteer as well. Yeah, so perhaps you can add something more.
Go ahead.
Yes, Tereza reminded me on another aspect of volunteering that I had experience with, that the groups of volunteers are also they become very influential stakeholders in policy making. So in my experience, when we drafted this set of new legislation, there was very much communication and also kind of political pressure from the stakeholders, from the volunteering groups that involved the pensioners organizations, so on. So it was for me. It was they were really influential, and they had their word at the end. What kind of legislation, which is basically centered on the elderly people, was passed in the end. So this is also one of political or societal effect that the volunteers have. They're very strong organization and very influential stakeholders.
Thank you. This is a great cue for my last question, which is for all of you. So you will all get a chance, because we're not letting you two off the hook so easily. You mentioned the influence of other stakeholders, of civil society stakeholders and volunteers. We also have very different ideas of what should be done and what needs to be done, and perhaps what is the only way to be to eternal bliss, I guess. So my question is, what concrete systemic policy measures, or not, perhaps not systemic, but what policy measures do you think should be taken to create an environment where the volunteering in long-term care could be structured, sustainable, quality, and properly mentored? You can choose your own order on how you answer, or I can choose whatever. I can start? Okay.
Just to pick up an idea regarding the policies and the legal framework that the countries must have. We have an example like in Ireland. You don't have a specific legislation, but you have good experience with the volunteering. We have the Portuguese case where we have a good framework. It was really important to all institutions to have that legislation put in place. They have the principles, the rights and duties of the volunteer. So everybody is supposed to know the legislation and the rights of the volunteers and their duties in a general matter. But as Portuguese, I have to say we have good framework, but we don't have a good system to know if it's really going okay. So we have a good legislation that was put in place by the government at that time. It was the legislation is from 1999, so more than 25 years ago, and it actually helped the organization to try to have not only the very clear what the mentor was supposed to be, but also the rights and duties of the volunteer and the rights and duties of the organization as well. But we don't have a very good auditing system put in place. This is the Portuguese way. We made a good legislation, and then if you want to know it, you just go in and know it, and we don't see if you do this. Okay, so it's up to the civil institutions or to the NGOs to provide or to see what legislation is put in place and try to have the volunteers to know their rights. And I keep part of my time is giving information to the volunteers about their rights. Well, we have to try to do this or do that or do that. One thing that I think it's really important is to each country regarding their experience to have very clear what do they to have as a civic perspective for their citizens, to have volunteering as a way of improving their society and try to mitigate problems know how to mitigate otherwise, because we don't have the funds, and the volunteers really give back a lot of knowledge and skills and money to the society. So we have to have a very clear, as a society, what do we want from volunteering. Then politicians will come along. I will think you have that experience about politics. I don't have that one, but I think it's really good to have. This is what we can do with volunteering. In a more continuous way, in an emergency way. You name the frame that you want to put volunteers in, and then to really value the volunteering that is made by the people and try to appreciate. We are living in the international year. 2026 is the international year of volunteering, so it's a really good opportunity to show the potentialities of volunteering, the potentialities of mentoring volunteers in several areas, and also specific in the elderly center, and try to show how important this is. And studies like the Irish study, or the experience that Nicola is sharing with us, is really important to see how volunteering can make the difference regarding the different institutions or the different areas that they are put in place. So this is the key topic.
Thank you.
That's the one.
I think involving or having volunteering included in policy is really important. So in Ireland, the government has a policy around palliative care. So for hospices, that there should be volunteer coordinators involved. And in hospices, there's a really strong network of volunteer coordinators. But the same doesn't apply to nursing homes. And so I think it really needs to be included in policy in relation to the older person. Because, okay, we have done a piece of research, but we've had to do it in order to justify the work that we're doing, because our funding is not coming necessarily from the state. And we would like to see that what has been done in Slovenia, we would like to see done in Ireland, so that other nursing homes in Ireland can also get the benefit of a volunteer coordinator. We follow the Investing in Volunteers standard, which is a quality standard for Ireland and the UK for volunteer programs and volunteer management. And that puts a structure in place. And I think having a structure is really important, so that you can replicate that across various services. And it's really about looking at volunteering from the journey of the person before they even join the organisation. So what has the organisation put in place to support volunteers? Having the vision, having the funding in place, having the staff there the policies, the procedures, all of those things, the support, how you're going to value the contribution that volunteers make. I think that's really important as well. And if funding can be in place so that you can just do your job and not have to worry about, am I going to exist? Is my role going to exist in a year's time or 2 years' time? It gives you a sense of security that you can just do the job, and you can really know that all these initiatives that I'm going to start now are going to continue, and they're not going to end when the funding ends, because that's what we're constantly trying to do, and keep going. And you know, we have to obviously, you like figures. I'm useless at maths. I don't like figures. I like the feeling stories, that the impact that you can show in someone's life. But we have to do the figures. So that's why we did our piece of research. And it would be great to be able to replicate that in other nursing homes, and just to be able to demonstrate, like, we know the impact that the volunteers have in our home. We see it every day. We didn't need to do that piece of research to prove it, but we have to. You have to tick the boxes and all of those things. But it'd be great if it's included in policy, if the funding is in place. And I'd just say as well that I meet with other volunteer coordinators in healthcare in Ireland. their situations maybe are much better than mine. In some cases, maybe they're not as good as mine, but we're able to share our learning and that support, and just so that we don't have to repeat the same mistakes, so we can just share policies that we've created, and that it saves time, and that it just means we're more efficient, I suppose, in what we're doing, and that kind of the same standard that we're applying, that, you know, volunteers will have a quality experience when they come and volunteer with us, I think is really important.
Thank you. Yeah, go on.
As I mentioned earlier, after we applied this new policy for founding of coordinators in nursing homes, we also ordered research or evaluation that was carried by a university in Novo Mesto. There are many meaningful results from this evaluation, but I will only mention one, which was kind of, maybe the most important one. The most important what they found was that on the one hand, the people, the coordinators that work in institutions with volunteers are sometimes overworked. They're tired. It's just one additional task among many other tasks in the context of a job that's already difficult in healthcare or social care work. So it seems that it's not enough that you pay some additional task to worker that's already in other jobs, other tasks. It seems that it would be meaningful. This was one of the suggestions, to establish a special position or special job inside the institution, inside the nursing home, especially for coordinating the volunteers. This was one of the results that was most often in context of this evaluation, but there are others also. I was just say generally it's a thing of the ethical society, the volunteering. It has to be recognized as a key element of the ethical society, and ethics can be taught, and the state, the government has a saying in that what is generally considered to be of value in our society. So generally, I would also I think it would be meaningful to include this teaching on volunteering, of the ethics of volunteering in the general education system.
I couldn't agree more. So my suggestion was that volunteer coordinator or mentor should be mandatory for every retirement home who is listed as a public institution with the volunteer program, because most of the retirement homes are listed in this, and also some kind, for now, it's like a sign that we are a quality retirement home, because we have volunteers. It's you volunteers are our pride for now, you know. And we have volunteers, yes, we have organized volunteering, and that is a good thing, but that is not enough. As you said before, our mentors usually go on ethical engine, and it is not acceptable. And I think that it is the right time now that we have so much experience, we learn so much, we have a very good support in Slovenian philanthropy, that we can really have independent volunteer coordinator and mentor at the beginning in one person. And we should start this in public institutions, because this work can be done even better, and a lot more volunteers can come and help us organized, because there is a lot of more volunteering work which is not counted, which is not organized, that it's done here. Because one retirement home without volunteers, I think, couldn't work just with public officers. It cannot be done. So, volunteer coordinator for all retirement homes who have a volunteering program.
I agree, of course. In Slovenia, we have a strategic committee for volunteering and non-governmental organization. And I think this is the task for them. They have to give some guidance for the government and also National Assembly what to do to be even more friendly for volunteers and to include more people to mentoring and so on. So I think Slovene Philanthropy is the first organization that could suggest these topics to this council. So this is the way, I think, and we have to listen and then to try to implement it, and we will.
Okay, wonderful. So in the next few months, we can expect volunteer mentor positions in all public institutions, or next few years, let's say.
It's never so easy.
Well, that's what I heard. Okay, so yeah, this is actually it for me. I shortened it a bit because we are all pressed for time. I would just like to ask all of you if you have any questions, comments. You are volunteer mentors. You work in care homes. Do you have any questions? Would you like to add something? You can, if you feel more comfortable, you can do it in Slovenian and we'll translate. No. Would any of you like to add something? Okay.
We have the question.
Yeah.
Can I give you the mic? I'll give you loud.
For the live stream, sorry. Hi, my name is Dunia. I have a quick question. I'm really amazed with the numbers that you have volunteers. So what is the key to get the number of volunteers? Because I'm a short time here in Slovenia, and I do observe that it's a lack of volunteer, or I don't know, it's a kind of struggle. So I just have a quick question. What is the key to success?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I guess what we're doing, I think it's really important to have that structure, to set the structure there so that when volunteers come, they know, that it's a quality experience, that it's organized, that we have an induction process, we have, training, support. There's always somebody there, like Barbara mentioned, there's always we're always there. The door's always open. They always have our numbers to get in touch. And I think it's just how you treat people as well. One of our, we have 3 values in our organization: hospitality, compassion, and respect. And I think if you really base your program on those values and you live your values, I think that, there's that film Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, and he says, if you build it, they will come. I think that's kind of the case. We've just built it. We treat our volunteers with so much respect because they bring so much. We couldn't do what we do without all our volunteers. And yeah, I suppose it's just about putting the structure in place, having the, and then it's kind of word of mouth. We don't really have to advertise so much the roles. We can if we want to. But we kind of just have people getting in touch and saying, I'd like to volunteer. Like we've some families like that. There's a couple of members of the family that volunteer. So there's 2 sisters that are volunteering. We have a husband and wife that volunteer. So word of mouth does help that as well. But I think it's really about how you treat people. And how you put the structure in place for the program. So like I said, we use the Investing in Volunteers framework, and that's very clear about how you set up your volunteer program. And so I didn't even know it existed when I started working there. A colleague told me, this is what you should do. So she was actually a volunteer at the time. and she had worked as a volunteer coordinator in a hospice, and she got the award in the hospice. And she said, "Oh, this is really good." So I looked into it and thought, "Oh yeah, it is really good." And so we had basically structured the program on that before we even went for the accreditation. And like I said before, it's about preparing, before somebody even joins, and be aware it's a journey. I've learned that when somebody would say, "Oh, I can't volunteer anymore," you're like, "No, don't leave. We don't want to lose you." But then I realized it's the way things go. It's a journey. People's circumstances change, move to a different part of the country, get a job, and maybe don't have as much time, personal circumstances. And it's about being on the journey and making it from the beginning until the end. And that we do exit interview at the end to find out, how was your experience, anything we could do to improve. And most of the time when I sit down and have those conversations, they're like, "No, can't think of anything that you could do." And I'm like, "No, come on, there has to be something. Is there something we can do?" And then they will tell, "Oh, maybe we could have more opportunity to have a social activity to meet up." So we do volunteer meetings. So it allows volunteers to be able to share their experiences together. Sometimes we do a coffee morning. During National Volunteering Week, we'll put an emphasis on the volunteers. When new staff start working with us, I have about a half an hour to talk to them about volunteering, explain why we involve volunteers. It's written into their contract, their work contract, that they will be working alongside volunteers. So it's very clear from the start, why we're involving volunteers and what role staff can play to support. And I'm really conscious of, like you mentioned, staff working in care homes are really busy, and they really don't need anything extra put on their plate. So our role, I suppose, is to really be the link and listen to everybody, listen to feedback from staff, listen to feedback from volunteers, and just try and get everybody to gel along. And at the end of the day, the people that are living in our home, they built our society. They're the ones that laid the foundation, and they should have a quality experience towards the end of their lives. And that's our responsibility to be able to provide that. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Maybe I.
Yeah.
Sorry, could I give you?
Micha, I live here across, I nearly live here in this house. In this building, we have Center for Activities of Fužine with many programs all the day from the morning till evening, and many people who come here for these activities could be also invited by the home to support as volunteers. This is one way. And the other way is also many people who come to visit relatives here in home. Many have also more time to come as volunteers also. So I see these additional possibilities. Thank you.
Yes, as Micha said, most of our volunteers really come from Center of Activity Fužine, which has more than 700 younger retirees there. And the other big group are relatives of people who used to be our residents. There are also some younger people, but most of our volunteers are older people. And they also sometimes come with the exact idea what they can do, but mostly we ask them to help. And for now, we are really lucky that they have never said no. So they always help, and some of them stay and become volunteers. So.
Thank you, both of you, all of you. Any other questions, suggestions? Okay, then we can wrap this up. Thank you for being here. Thank you all of you for taking the time in your busy schedules, I'm sure. As I said at the beginning, this is part of the Empower Care project, which is financed by the EU. The project continues until February next year, so there will be more updates, more ideas, more good practices that we will explore in Ireland, in Portugal, and tomorrow in Maribor, in Ruše. So you can expect more from us on this front. Thank you all for coming, and goodbye. Good luck.